Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell with Marky D as always. Marky Davison, how you going, my good friend?
Hey, what's going on, Matty? How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I gotta say, I'm a little bit sad about the Queen, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You know, I was thinking about it yesterday, right? And I was talking with some American colleagues about it, and obviously a lot of our listeners, are from the US, of course, as Steeler fans. And it's funny in the issue of like American independence. I'm like, I hate the UK, but as an Australian, as part of the Commonwealth, I'm like, oh man, I love being part of the Commonwealth. I love being a Queen's subject. It's just really weird.
Yeah, like for me personally, it doesn't bother me too much. I know that sounds disheartening and whatever, but I'm more, I guess, she's not in my life. You're in my life. You know what I'm saying? So if you were to something happened to you, I'd be like, that sucks because then I got to find someone else to do a podcast with. That'd be my first notion. But other than look,
you're always thinking about the fans, Mark. Always thinking about the fans. The listeners always come first.
I think about myself pretty much. That's half my problem too. But like if you were to go I know you, right? I haven't met you yet, but I know you. I know the fellas here. I know my family and stuff like that. That would really be saddening to me. But someone who's so disconnected all the way in England and a big personality and whatever, of course, people are so connected. Like we are connected with our Steelers. Like it really hurt me when Tunch passed away, right?
Yeah.
But I listened to that guy for 20 years, and he was Tunch and Wolfie were fantastic to me. So. Yeah, it sucks. I think England's going through their mourning and stuff like that, and it's a big event because she was 96. Like that's crazy. That's a long time. That's a long in. That's like almost 100.
Yeah, it's I was just thinking, if she got to 100, would she write a letter to herself? You know how everyone in the Commonwealth gets a letter.
Yeah,
100. But I guess it kind of. Right, exactly. We were having this debate last night at home. Who would write the letter? But it's also kind of got me thinking parallel to the Steelers, like when Dan Rooney died, and it's just that legacy. You know what I mean? Like it's just that it's not necessarily that had to impact your life directly, but how have they done things that have changed? The way of something you believe in. But I also think it's a good segue because there's a member of the BTSC community that has some ties to England, who's sitting here in our green room right now, or I think it's a black and gold room. If it's just a black room, it might be hard it might be dim for him. But I believe it's a bit of a black and gold room, as they say, and he has ties to England. So this is, as I say, great segue to bring him in. And so we will welcome to the show, Big Bad Brian Anthony Davis. How you going?
Gentlemen, it is such a pleasure to be on this show. Before we get started on anything, I'd like to wish you a happy second anniversary with BTSC, both of you.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
It's blessed. August 29th, 2020 was the debut of this show. And I got to tell you, 2 years of you idiots has been absolutely fantastic. And when I say the phrase "you idiots," that's a term of endearment because that's what I call my buddies. So I'm an idiot, and I love having you guys on the show. So fantastic, gentlemen, great job. I will give the hand to both of you, and I hope there's many, many more days here, many, many Fridays, Saturdays, whatever day it is for you guys. It's a Friday for me, and we love you here at BTSC. Great job, guys.
Wow, so it's been 2 years and we haven't been fired yet. That's great.
Yeah, you know what? I got to share a story about you guys. I remember when you were sending me the first show, and you guys were so excited, and I'm like, and we actually got you on the same day. Dave Schofield, Jeff Hartman, and myself were like, nah, this is good. We're gonna run with it. And you guys left the mic on with what you sent me. And here you guys are, besides the plethora of curse words, the recreational curse words, I just hear, I hear both of you so excited going, mate, if we get the gig, we'll do this. If we get the gig. Guys, you got the gig. It's been 2 years, and I love it. About the ties to England, my mother-in-law is English. She's British. Back in June for the Jubilee, She had a special tea. She's 85 years old, and she has the British flag out in like this huge British flag in the front yard, a flag of the Queen, and she's absolutely devastated. So I got to tell you, but for me, I'll say this: I think I was more upset when Princess Diana died, and that August 30th of that's 25 years.
Whoa.
So just a class act. She did great things for my gosh, 70 years of service. Absolutely fantastic. And you mentioned Dan Rooney, guys. I was in England at a Rick Astley when Dan Rooney.
That's crazy.
And nobody wanted to let me know. My wife was praying that I didn't find out. And here I checked my phone. Gosh, I'm in the middle of Never Gonna Give You Up, and he died. And so I can understand, but for everybody in England, you gotta understand, 70 years. That's phenomenal. We get a president in the United States, whether we like him or not, for 8 years tops. FDR ruined that. FDR was like almost 16 years or however, 1932 to 45 or something like that. That's how long he was around, and they changed the rules for him. So I got to tell you, this is a great passing, and as a member of the United States, no matter where you are, Queen Elizabeth was very important and an amazing legacy, and I don't think you'll ever see that again.
So I got a spontaneous trivia question. We always talk about 3 Steelers coaches in 70 years. Bad. How many coaches because they've had all these quotes about Queen Elizabeth saw, this many presidents and this many prime ministers and this many world leaders. How many coaches did she see during her reign of the Steelers? Is it 7? I thought I calculated 7, but I'm just going off the top of my head.
So what was it, 1952 when she started?
Yeah.
So Bill Austin was right before Chuck Noll, and you had Mike Knox, Jock Sutherland, I think, was in there. Of course, you had the great Buddy Parker, who should be in the Hall of Fame. Took the Lions to a couple championships, and so I think I said Mike Knox. I would probably say about six or 7, but I might be missing somebody too, because it's really tough. It was just a turnstile until 1969.
It was 8. Depends whether you count the guy that was Joe Back that was in there when she took over. But it's pretty crazy, right? Like
the real question
that gives you a sense of like how long she reigned for.
Wow.
The real question is, did she want Mike Tomlin fired?
Yeah,
that's the real question.
Exactly.
If the Queen wanted Mike Tomlin fired, well, here's the thing. Really, with his ties to Ireland, is there a monarch in Ireland, or just the fact that they're a part of the UK? How does that work?
Well, there's Northern Ireland and there's the southern part of Ireland. But if you read A Different Way to Win, which I've almost finished, all of Ireland have a lot to thank with the Rooneys in terms of how they were able to support that economy. And because there was a stat around how many more Irish Americans there are than actually Irish there are. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a good segue into the Steelers and new beginnings and just like there's a new monarch for those of us in the Commonwealth or a new some level of world leader. We've got a new Steelers team, and so they kick things off in just a couple of days' time, depending on what time zone you're listening to this in. It might be that you're listening to this the day of the game as part of your pre-show lineup. So I've got a question to you, fellas. There's a bit of negativity this week or what have you. I'm going to ask go to both of you on this one, and I'm going to start with Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, on the offensive line, who is, they have to be the best performer, but who is one of the better performers? And in your mind right now, who's the worst performer that needs to really show up come this Sunday at 1 p.m. Cincinnati Bengals?
I think one of the better performers is probably Mason Cole snapping the football. I didn't hear too many bad things about him in the preseason. I think he's doing all right. Now, one of the worst performers is probably the guy that won't play was probably Kendrick Green. But I guess Dotson's going to fill in for him. And you know what? The whole O-line, you don't have to be great this game. You can work a few things out for the next few weeks. And I'm not an O-line expert at all, but just hold them up for 4 seconds. Just hold them. Just stand there like the Great Wall of China and just block them all out for 3 or 4 seconds and give it enough time for Trubisky to find Pickett or Claypool or Deontay enough time, and then we have a chance. Or just run the football and just I want in this game, fellas, I want everything. You've had the whole year to get ready, and there's no excuses for the first game. In my opinion, there's none. You're not tired. The very first game. You have.
But who are you worried about on the starting O line? Like I get the sentiment on Kendrick Green, but who are you worrying about on that O line?
Oh, probably maybe Dan Moore's getting turned around a bit too. I don't know if if Dotson's going to be healthy, or we've always heard this. I've always been a big fan of Dotson because he's so powerful, but you never really see it, until I just want them to just maybe those two blokes on the left hand side, and even to a certain extent. Actually, I'm naming the whole O line. Maybe even James Daniels, because he doesn't play well in August, so he doesn't peak in August. But I want to see something, and we don't know how healthy Chooks going to be as well. He's playing too, right? So, I just want to.
I'll flick it over to Bad. So I know yourself and KT Smith talked a bit about Mason Cole. I've not been the biggest fan of Mason Cole through the offseason. It's not just because of the previous support I've had for Kendrick Green, but in your mind, who's the guy that needs to step up, and who's the guy that needs to just, be that leader on the O-line?
I don't want to do a Dave Schofield cop-out answer here, too, but
you said and you do it anyway.
Let me just say this: I'm going to give an answer who I think needs to step up, but I think what needs to happen the most for this offensive line is to continue to play together and gel together. And one thing that was the most important thing for me, and Jeff Hartman was harping on this after the Jacksonville preseason game, and Jeff saying, look, make a decision at guard. And once they made the decision at guard, they got a lot better. I thought from week 2 to week 3 of the preseason that line improved. Was it immensely? No. But they improved enough. James Daniels comes out after the Jacksonville game and said, "Hey, I'm working on my hand here. I'm working on my footwork, but working on the system. I feel like I'm going to get it." This is also the 4th offensive line coach in 4 years for this team. So am I making excuses? Yeah, I guess I am making excuses. But I'm also saying that I'm ready to give these guys some more time to gel, and they've had 3 weeks to gel now. And when I say 3 weeks to gel, because they had the week between the Jacksonville game and Detroit, and now 2 weeks between Detroit and the opener on September 11th. So as far as everything goes, I think they need to get better. I think they are a much better team than that 2008 offensive line that led a team to a Super Bowl. So I think the more that they grow together, I mean, they need to be, I'm talking rom-com stuff. Yeah, they need to be finishing each other's sentences.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's pick up that point. We look at 2008, and it's a very different quarterback behind that line. Ben made that line look good. And, I think I've watched that Super Bowl as many times as everyone else has. It's in the double digits, right? Easily. And the defense helped carry them through. But is that, whilst we can call it better than 2008, is that O-line, in your mind, going to be enough for Trubisky or Pickett?
I think it's going to be close to enough. And I think that's good enough. And the reason I'm saying that is imagine 2020, 2021, Ben, behind that 2008 offensive line. There is no Super Bowl. I'm telling you, there's not going to be. I really think that the big difference with that offensive line is the fact that Ben's not there. And that is nothing against Ben. What it is, it's the fact that it's against the fact that time was not on Ben Roethlisberger's side anymore. And he had to do things different. He had to, when Chris Collinsworth is saying, "Hey, He gets it out in 1.9 seconds. And this is amazing. You know, the man had to. Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett and even Mason Rudolph, for that matter, they can go ahead and they can move to their right and they can throw on the run. Do they throw the deep ball better than Ben? No. Ben had no time to throw the deep ball. But if they can get enough time to throw the deep ball, they're going to be in a lot better shape. I really think they have better tools. Imagine though, and salivate. And you're not going to see it, but imagine George Pickens Jr. and Ben Roethlisberger on the same page. Oh my gosh, that would have been beautiful. So
to me, to me, Pickens is. People go jump out of this, jump at me for saying this, but just from watching him in training camp and a preseason, to me, he's one of the most electrifying receivers we've ever had. I just think on raw talent and the age that he is as well. And I watched his press conference. Would have been your Thursday. I watched it my Friday, and everyone it's people think he's aloof or he doesn't care. It's not that. I think he's just really, really calm about it. Like they talked about how he shoves off cornerbacks. He's like, well, I started out in the defense. I want and they talked to one of the reporters asked him, do you think it's a good thing that you've been able to put this on tape and now every cornerback's scared? He's like, yeah, when you're going to come play against me, you're going to have to compete. Like it's not a gimme. I'm going to bring a bit of he said the word. I don't. So I don't like saying that wide receivers are, prima donnas. In Australia, we'd call it pretty boys kind of thing. But that's that I come with a mean streak mentality. And so Mark, Steelers Freak asked a good question. You and I talk a lot about Tomlin haters, and we're massive Tomlin fans. But Steelers Freak does bring up a fair point. If they do lose, I don't want to hear Tomlin talk about them not being prepared. The schedule came out months ago. That's a fair fan sentiment. How are you going to feel? Because you talked about that just before. You said all year to plan for this game, and we know what this is like when they did it in Buffalo last year. But how are you going to be feeling if if we finish this game and on the record, even if they lose by 1 point, in overtime, it's 0-1.
It's the exact same notion. If if it's your year to cook the family barbecue for Christmas and you don't have lunch ready. Is that not the same? Is that not the same? Like this schedule. No, I agree. I'm a massive Tomlin guy. I really believe in Tomlin. I want to go to his Hall of Fame speech in 2050. I hope he lasts that long, right? So I want to be there for that. It gives me time to save for the best seats. But in that same idea, if you are not ready for this game, like game planning, you've had all year. The whole year to game plan for this game. If I see them struggle on offense, I don't. If the skill, not the skill level, like if they're competitive, I'm fine. But if they're playing the silly plays and Tomlin says, "Well, we weren't ready, we didn't do this, blah blah," blah, that's just a cop out. So I agree to that sense. But I kind of want to see on the other side of everyone who does hate Coach Tomlin, if he wins this game, there needs to be some level of respect to the man going into the Bengals stadium, which we have won 16-5 since 2000, I think since when it opened. But there needs to be some respect either way. But if you're not ready for this game, I think the players will be ready. But coaching-wise, you've had all week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals. You know who you're going up against. You know their roster. They know your roster. And it's time to go out and play. So, and I think what we saw last year as well, the Steelers were ready for the Bills, and they beat the Bills, right? And we saw how well the Bills played last night. The Bills went crazy. If I can see Mitchell Trubisky play as half as good as Josh Allen, then I think we have a chance. And like Bad said, rolling out to the right, rolling out to the left is going to be huge for this offense because you'll be able to mix things up. And we remember Big Ben in 2007, 2008 when he might find a Heath Miller or a guy like that, just in the broken play. We hadn't seen that the last 2 years. I think that there's a quiet confidence about this team because we're not even talking about their defense, which is TJ Watt, Highsmith, Miles Jack, these dudes.
We'll get there.
And these guys are fired up to verse the Bengals. So Steelers Freak does make a good point. If they lose this game, they lose by 41-10. I've seen that score out there again. Then you start thinking, well, what happened? But in the same notion, if they go out and win this game, this is a huge game. I think, like same as last year, we're all going to lose. Yada yada yada. And they won with the versus the Bills, and they got the punt block and that kind of stuff, and they beat them at home. if we win this game, there needs to be some level of respect. I don't, maybe not a lot, but a little bit needs to grow for Mike Tomlin and his coaching ability.
Well, I mean, and I'll pick up on that point, and then I've got a question to Bad that leads us into talking about defense. In my mind, if you can't respect Tomlin at this point of his career, with this, going to like 2 Super Bowls, winning 1, never having a losing season after like 15 years, then people are never going to respect him, and that's just ridiculous. But Bad, yeah.
Can I go ahead and address the Mike Tomlin not prepared stuff? Because I look at it a completely different way. You almost need a Mike Tomlin translation book, because Mike Tomlin never feels that his team is unprepared. We're looking at unprepared completely the wrong way. What he's saying is these guys did not do what we told them to do. They did not prepare correctly. They were not good enough to be on that field today because we gave them the right game plan and they did not execute. Mike Tomlin doesn't want to say that, but that's what Mike Tomlin means when he says that. Yeah. So I sure, am I a Tomlin apologist? Yeah, a lot of the time I am.
But I want to pick up on that. I'm sick of hearing about people talking about a Tomlin apologist because we've won, right? Now we haven't won playoff games, but there's a lot more that goes into it. Mark will give you a good indication on this too. I actually, and I've had criticism in a live chat with this before. I think where a lot of us are Colbert apologists, and I've done a lot of reflecting on it over the past year. And yes, he drafted some good players, but like there are some bad misses as well, like seriously bad in the first 2 rounds. And the draft is about, I mean, the same in other teams like Harry Roseman. Like, you're gonna have good drafts, you're gonna have bad drafts, you're gonna have and as long as they outweigh each other in the good side, they're gonna have a winning team. But there's a lot of blame that's put on Mike Tomlin. It's not all his fault or his problem. He had a franchise quarterback that the Steelers were never going to get out of there, despite the different rumors. That held up a lot of cap for a long time. So I don't think anyone's a Tomlin apologist. I think people are just trying to be fair to Tomlin.
How about a Tomlin perspective giver?
The Tomlin advocacy program, the TAM.
Yes. I mean, because I'll just give you the perspective of Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw this because you did talk a little bit about it in the live chat this week, Bad. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective. And you've watched the Steelers a lot longer than Mark and I have been alive. And what this could mean, and you've seen
a lot longer.
Throwing shade. But we heard during the week about Terrell Austin going down on the sideline and Brian Flores being up in the booth. And in the BTSC Slack channel, we talked about, there was the perspective of why that's good. And KT Smith gave that coaching perspective and the trust that shows. What sort of benefit do you see this providing for the team tangibly? Like, how is this going to affect what we see on the field? And how does this give us, is this an X factor that we haven't had in other years?
All right. So I am going to go ahead and give a disclaimer here, because anything that I'm about to say right now is regurgitation of the great Kevin Thatcher Smith. And I'm going to tell you that, I mean, is he my podcast partner on Here We Go, the Steelers show? Download it wherever you find your favorite Steeler podcast. Yeah, he is. But man, this guy's a phenomenal football coach. He's a phenomenal man. He is he's dealing with a very young team right now, and they got crushed in their season opener, and they came back to win, being down 21 points in their second game. And I love what this man does. I love the perspective that he has. And when I have a question, and I've been a fan of it for a long time, I go to him. And his thing as a coach, he does not want his offensive coordinator, especially on the field. He wants to have that offensive coordinator in the booth. And here's the reason. Because to him, it's like a video game. You need to be able to see the whole field, and you're not seeing it down there. So on the defensive side, it's kind of the same thing. Terrell Austin has been up above for 4 years, and he thinks it's refreshing being down there. And one of the things for him is the fact that he has somebody that he respects up there to relay to him what's going on. So he's saying, oh, hey, Terrell, it's Brian. This is what's happening. Look out for that guy. Look out. They're going to try to expose the right side. They're blitzing. This is what I see. And he could be talking to the players on the field. So basically, you've cloned your defensive coordinator, and you have two of them. You have one up. You have the same two guys doing the same job in different ways, and that benefits the Steelers because they're divvying up the work, but there's by one being down there, he's going to see different things than the other guy does, and they can compare notes, and everybody in black and gold is going to be better for it.
How do you feel about it, Mark? Are you feeling the same way, or do you think there's too many chefs and not enough, kitchen staff?
Well, that is actually one funny thing that I always talk to my dad about, and he's always amazed how there's 19, 20 coaches on the field, right? There's more coaches than there is in an NRL team. But to me, it's fine if you get another perspective of the guy, overlooking the field with a bird's eye view. Fantastic. My only thing would be, can you communicate between those two fellas, right? If you see what you're seeing, but the communication aspect as well, Brian Flores might be saying one thing, Terrell also might be hearing a different thing. And then if you do have two minds, sometimes can be good. But if you mix up your communication, outlets, if all three of us start talking at once, we have a message to say, but then the viewers can't hear it, right? So there's that element to it. But I think they're all professionals, and if it's going to work, I think it's something where if it does work, then it's fantastic. If it doesn't, then come back down from the box to the field. But it would make sense to have more of a bird's eye view, overseeing everything as a defense. But I also trust the players too. I think the players on the field like TJ Watt, Cam, Minka, those dudes, I think they just get it. I think as well, and for the Mike Tomlin team this year, I get this quiet confidence about the guy. He's really, we saw the second depth chart, that debacle, and I think he might have just did it for fun, just to play with the media. But I get this quiet confidence.
Well, it does change the storylines. I mean, in a previous role, I worked in the political sphere, and not everything that you see that's leaked is, an unintentional leak. Right?
You do it on purpose.
There's been called strategic leaks.
Yeah, do it on purpose to change the certain narrative or whatever.
I'm sure that didn't happen in this regard, but at least there is a benefit of it, right?
Yeah, but I think I do trust these coaches, and we are working with a younger team now, and it's the new era with the new general manager Omar Khan, new stadium, stuff like that. And we are versing, I'm going to say the same old Bengals. Now, they're different. They're a different team, right? But in saying that, I think with this new team in Trubisky, I'm kind of excited to see Coach Tomlin work with Trubisky and Matt kind of work with Trubisky too, because it's a new guy. And the best thing is he's mobile to run around the pocket. So I find that all the stuff about the Steelers being the worst team, we can't win anything, kind of crazy. But we shall see, because this is going to fire them up, and I think they have a chance in this game. But to answer your first question, yeah, it's okay. It doesn't really bother me that one guy's up top and one guy's down below. Different perspectives, and it's going to help the team, I think.
So bad, and I'll fire the question back to you as well, Mark. Who is going to be the most important offensive weapon in this game against the Bengals? Not necessarily for the season, but who's the offensive weapon for this game against the Bengals? Who's going to be the difference maker?
I think it's Joe Mixon. He's the most important on that field, and here's the reason why. You know the talent that you have with that three-headed monster, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and of course, the great Jamar Chase. And I could say that. I think the guy is absolutely phenomenal. I have a lot of great things to say about Joe Burrow, too. I think Joe Burrow is now Joe Cool to me. I think he's that guy that...
He looked good on Pat McAfee. He took that really well yesterday. That was a good interview.
I think in his third year, he's more of a top echelon guy. Do I hate Joe Mixon? I cannot stand the guy, especially for the stuff that he did between college and the NFL. I have no regard for the man as a person. Like I do for a Tyler Boyd, for a Jamar Chase. I have no problem with it. Those guys. I have a problem with Joe Mixon. But what Joe Mixon does on the field, if he is running well and you're moving the chains, man, you have no problem mixing it up and throwing deep because you've got to worry about stopping Joe Mixon. And if you don't pay attention to him, he's going to run all over you. If you shut him down, what happens? Then the defensive backfield, they don't have to worry as much. They don't have to be cheating up. They don't have to be doing a lot of things. They can go ahead and not single cover these guys. Like Joe Burrow said, hey, if you single cover my guys, good luck to you. Good luck with that.
100%. I mean, Higgins is an absolute weapon.
Do you see what Joe Mixon's going to do for them? If you stop him, you're in a lot better shape. You have a much better chance than if he is running well, then you're putting those guys on an island.
Mark, who's the most important offensive weapon on that field? Is it a
I think it's going to be Joe Burrow, mate. Joe Shiesty Jr., Joe Bungle, man. To me, look, I'm not putting any threats out there, but I would definitely punch his face if I had the chance. Like if I walked past him at a bar and I was reaching for a schooner, and then my hand turned into a fist, and then the schooner was his face, I'd have to punch it. And I don't fight anyone. I just don't like his face.
Hey, that's the way I felt about Baker Mayfield. I really did, and you know that I did threaten to fight him, which is the stupidest thing. He would have killed me. But Joe, if obviously you listen to Here We Go, the Steelers show, the pregame show, Matt, and the one thing about that week, if you have never seen the movie The Program from 1993,
oh yeah, I know.
Go watch that movie. He's Joe Kane in a way. He's got some bravado, and I mean, you want a guy with bravado, and he could back it up too. I mean, a lot of people hated him at LSU as soon as he brought out that cigar. I looked at it and I'm like, that would be my guy. I would have loved that.
Oh, I thought it was baller. It was absolute baller. All right. Let's flip it though. Defensive, because we talk about Minka and they've got a guy like Jesse Bates. Who's the most important defensive weapon on that field? Marky D.
I'm gonna go with Ogunjobi.
Really?
Well, you mean like Bengals, or do you mean like Steelers?
Anyone. Who's the most important defensive weapon?
Well, the most important.
But Ogunjobi, I'll give you a perspective why I think Ogunjobi is an interesting choice as well. Ogunjobi played on this team last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They didn't bring him back, right?
He's gonna be fired up.
He's gonna be fired up. Exactly.
He's gonna be real fired up. He'd be ready to go, man. I saw him in preseason too. He's ready to go. Probably him and TJ Watt, but I think this defense can hold Joe Burrow and the offense. And like Brian said, you got to take care of the run because Mixon carved us up last year, or the last two games, and the score got out of hand. But defensive wise for the Steelers, I think 3 levels. There's so many players we can name, but TJ Watt.
Who's the guy? You've got to make a play like
it's got to be TJ, mate. TJ for sure. TJ is ready to go. He's pretty much in his life sense. Everything's wrapped up. He's got the beautiful wife. He's got maybe not kids yet, but everything's everything's going his way. And now he's just got to go and tackle Joe Burrow or Joe Shiesty because I think this team. Everyone's saying that the Steelers don't want to win, but the players want to win. He wants to win, so he wants to go out there and make a difference in the team. So I think TJ is the X factor on defense. It has to be.
How about you, Bad?
I'll give you one from each team. Trey Hendrickson is the TJ Watt for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. He is not TJ Watt, absolutely not. But for them, he's their version of it. And he can disrupt a lot of things. I think if you find a way to shut him down, and they're not getting the pressure, you're going to have all day to pass. And if you get all day to pass, you can do some damage against this team because really the Steelers have phenomenal wide receivers, just like the Bengals do. But I think the Steelers even have more. They have the superstar like Jamar Chase? Not yet. We hope so, but not yet. But you have so many guys. One of the X factors on offense for the Steelers is Pat Freiermuth. Because I mean, if Pat Freiermuth across the middle is doing some stuff, then you're opening some things up for those wide receivers. I fully expect them to try to get George Pickens the ball. In fact, I would be playing Joe Pickens in any of your leagues if you have him. If it's daily fantasy, he's cheap. Go ahead and take this guy. But the one guy that I think is most important to the Cincinnati Bengals, and also could be the guy that could kill the Cincinnati Bengals, is our good friend Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton, he's a hitter. He's tough, but he's small. And if you're putting Chase Claypool on him, if you're putting George Pickens on him, you're putting a big guy on this guy. If that happens, then he could get victimized. And that's just one of those things that if he gets victimized, he's good. In fact, I think he was one of the reasons that that defense really stepped up. But if you can go ahead and find a way to burn that guy, then a lot of other lanes are going to open for you.
So is there a defensive player on the Steelers that you think is going to be a game changer?
I love the Steelers defense right now. I think one of the most important guys is to see what happens with Alex Highsmith coming back. Is he the game changer? No, he's not my game changer. I think it's really important to see what the guys on the defensive line do. But I want to talk about the middle of the field. And I think your inside linebackers could be your game changers. Everybody's worried about Devin Bush Jr. Fine. But I really think Miles Jack is jacked up and ready to go. And I think he's that guy that wants to control the middle of that defense. I think he feels like he's at the right place. I think he feels like he could be a game changer. And I don't think he cares if he's the 4th or 5th best defender on that team. But I really love what this guy can do for you. And I really did not think that he looked average. Some people were trying to tell me that, he just doesn't look good. Inside linebackers are going to be a problem. No, stop that. Now, I know you're snake bitten by it. I get it. But the biggest game changer for this defense is going to be Brian Flores. Is he the defensive coordinator? No, he's not. But he is a mad scientist. And he can do some things to just completely disrupt you. The biggest, he was one of the MVPs of the Steelers season last year, and he wasn't even the coach of the team.
Yeah,
but what did he do?
Right.
In the rain in Miami, the Baltimore Ravens could not do a single thing because Brian Flores knew how to scheme against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Which means Brian Flores has had a long time to think about the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Brian Flores is going to Terrell Austin, and Terrell Austin is your defensive coordinator. Quit saying you're not, but anybody that's saying that, it's Brian Flores' defense, no. But they're kumbaya. They agree with each other. And Brian Flores is here for a limited time only. He's like the McRib. Get it now, because he'll be gone. And the reason I'm saying that is because Terrell Austin's job and Mike Tomlin's job is to make sure they brought Brian Flores in saying, we're making you a head coach. Did I see the transcript of that? No. But what I'm saying is that I guarantee you they said that. And you're going to help us, and we're going to see what we can do. And hopefully it's infectious. And if it's infectious, that means that his mark on the team will go ahead and infect Terrell Austin, who I think is going to be a good defensive coordinator for this team. I think he has bigger cojones. And I really think that he is going to, I think he's a little bit of a mad scientist too.
So it's interesting because you talked a lot about Terrell Austin there. You talked about the middle of the field. Mike, you talked about like TJ. I am pretty on the record throughout the offseason having not just questions on the defensive tackle, but having a lot of questions about cornerback. I like Levi Wallace. I like Kello with a spoon. I think they both have some significant potential to be really good corners, and by that I mean better than what they are now. But we talked about the wide receiver unit from the Bengals just before for quite a little bit, and they're gonna, for me, that is going to go a long way to winning this game, because you only need Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd to beat you once or twice, and you're down 2 touchdowns, and you're not catching that. Like, this team has to hold them to under 20. So for me, I'm watching the cornerbacks really closely in this game, and how they go, and how Austin and Flores scheme and work together. But it's interesting because, Mike, you talked about a lot about the line and a bit more about like the outside linebackers. Bad, you talked about the inside linebackers. You talked about Highsmith there as well. You complimented the line. It's interesting. You talked to 3 different massive Steeler fans, and we're all picking a different part of the defense. But the whole really important bit is how they work as a unit. And I think that is what's going to win this game. So it's pretty interesting from that perspective. In terms of the new crop of players, we've obviously, I've been calling it not necessarily a rebuild, but it's a bit more than a retool. I think, Mark, we've used the line refresh throughout this offseason. Well, we talked about game changers there, but who's a new player on this team that you're just excited to see out there in regular season football, not preseason against number 2s and 3s, but is there a player for you guys that you just like, I just can't wait to see this guy hit the field?
Are we talking like free agents or rookies as well?
Anyone new face.
Oh, mate, it's got to be George Pickens. Yeah. I was going to go defense, but it's got to be George Pickens, because I think if he can get open to get 3 or 4, 5 catches versus the Bengals in week 1, I think this guy, I've never seen a guy like, he's so physical and yet so lanky and tall. He's like a Montavious Bryant, but like stronger. You know what I mean? He's got his arms go up like they're trying to reach the moon. And he's a good football player from what I've seen in preseason. I didn't watch any college football that much, but what I've seen in preseason, he's physical. He runs back to the route really well. He's going to be out there. He wants to block, like he wants to go out there and actually, make plays on the field by blocking. He looks like he wants to be a Steeler and be like a physical receiver. So I'm excited to see, will he get nervous on game day, or is he just going to go out there and play and follow the coach's orders? Like Brian said, do what you need to do, and then we'll put you in the position to win. And if you do that, then miss a guy and run to the house, or, I think he's going to be fantastic in this game. I think he's going to be, and even Zach Taylor, is Zach Taylor their coach? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, he talked about him saying, he's a fantastic player and we've got to look out for him. So he's in the same kind of notion. So I think him being a rookie is probably like, the butterflies and that kind of stuff. But overall, if he can just put that aside and just go play the game he's been playing in preseason and progress forward that way, he would be quite exciting to watch if he gets 4 catches for 60 yards or something like that, That's going to be like, that's a good game to me. If he gets a TD, even better. And if it makes the Bengals think when he's on the field, what do we do? If he's going to match up against, like Brian said, against the smaller corners, like Eli Apple and even Hilton, I think he can beat them in routes. He's more physical than those blokes. So I think, to me, he's the guy I'm looking for.
Yeah, nice one. How about you, Bad?
Well, first of all, George Pickens has ice water running through his veins. I don't think he's going to be nervous, because this is, like you said earlier, Matt, you're like, this is just what I do. And guys like that translate very well. They make that transition so well from the college ranks to the pros. I have no worries about him. I'm excited to see him. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Miles Jack, which I already did. I'm excited to see what Miles Jack could do. I can't wait to see Larry O. I can't wait to see Gunner O. I think that guy is going to be on t-shirts. I think there's so many new players for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans and the media to get excited about. And the reason there's so many, they brought a lot of guys in. And there's a lot of turnover here.
Well, and I would love to say Mark Robinson. I just don't think we see a heck ton of him this game. But the name for me, it's Connor Haywood. Like, Connor Haywood is this X factor in this offense. That
another guy too.
And I call it X factor because you just don't know how they're going to necessarily. We kind of have an idea of how they're going to use him, but I just think he's going to show up, and it might not even be a play that. It might be a play that he gets like 6 or 8 yards on, but it's a third down play that gets them, into field goal territory. It's something like that. I've just got this feeling that Connor Haywood he's going to be this really interesting player in this Matt Canada offense that we're actually starting, or we're all assuming that we're actually going to see the Matt Canada offense in full swing. But he's this player that I just the versatility, going up the seam. I mean, everyone knows I'm a Frymouth fanboy, but I think Connor Hayward, he is going to make a game-changing play. I'll put it that way.
He's the same too, Matty, mate. He's really physical and he's like a football player. When I say that, I'm like, he wants to be out there running the routes, doing the dirty stuff, the blocking, the tackling on teams and stuff like that. He's going to be fun to watch. And if they can get him the ball maybe 2 or 3 times in meaningful downs for first downs, and you can already see that he's trying to shake the idea of being Cameron Hayward's little brother. He doesn't want that. No player wants that. So he's going to go out there and play his hardest. And I think he looks like a guy to what I saw in preseason. He played like most of preseason. In one game, I think he played the whole game. Like, he's the kind of guy like, yes, sir, no, sir. Coach, what do you want me to do? You want me to do that? I'll go and do that. That's what I see with him. I think it'd be, I never thought about that one either. He's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, we've only got a couple minutes left in the show. I'll throw it open to you both. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to your fellow Steeler fans before this first game of the season?
I'll go first. I just want to say, look, the game is 0-0. It's not over yet. And if you wait all year to think the Steelers are going to lose, you can have your opinion, but I don't wait all year, the last 6 months, to do all the work we've been doing on BTSC and other projects I'm doing, to go, oh, we're going to lose this game. Oh, I can't stand that. There's no way we're winning. No, you go into the game 0-0 and you see what happens. That's what's being, to me, that's being a true supporter. So I don't wait all year to say we can't win this game. They've got that guy. I don't feel that way. I think we've got a chance to win because we've got TJ Watt pretty much. TJ Watt can go and win it by himself.
How about you, Bad?
Be patient is the first thing that I'm going to say. And do not go ahead and prejudge this team. Because I'm going to go back to when I think Mark was probably 3 years old. What were you born in 1989?
Yep.
And then Matty, you were born in 91, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
All right. Yep. Let's talk about Labor Day weekend 1992. The Houston Astrodome. Yes, the Houston Oilers were actually a team, guys. I don't know if you knew that, but love them
They're
blue
cool colors. They're nice colors.
Oh yeah, they beautiful uniforms. That baby blue with the red. Oh, it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
Warren Moon never won a Super Bowl with that team. I'm shocked. But they were double-digit favorites, and this was Bill Cowher's first year. Bill Cowher was expected by Sports Illustrated to go 4-12, and the Steelers were supposed to be crappy. And he said, guys, in the locker room, Chuck Noll's no longer here. No, I'm just guessing. I don't have the transcript. But he's saying, this is our team, and nobody believes in you. But this is our team. They ran a fake punt in that game. They embarrassed the Houston Oilers in that game, and they were huge underdogs. And they served notice. They started off 3-0. They went 11-5, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. But they may have had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the 90s. That was the beginning of a lot of great things. Now, I will say this. Nobody, and that means I'm even meeting the Buffalo Bills, who everybody thought they served notice last night, and they did. But they're not going 17-0. I'm going to bet that nobody's going 17-0. Because when you add that extra game, that changes a lot of things. And where before 9-7 was barely good enough to get in, now it's 9-8 is the just being over 500 at this point. But a 10-7 record is pretty good. And you saw what the Bengals did with a record like that last year. They were 10-7. So be patient with the Steeler team. This is not your Steeler team of the last 18 years. They're gone. Now this is Mike Tomlin's team, and this is a team in a different image. This is Matt Canada's team. This is Terrell Austin's team. This is TJ Watt's team. It's still Cam Hayward's team, but it's not Ben Roethlisberger's team. And Ben Roethlisberger did phenomenal things for this team, but he had a different style. Now, instead of Benny and the Steelers, this is a conglomerate. Now, this is just a whole bunch of guys working together. It's a cooperative, is what it is, not a conglomerate, excuse me. And so you're going to see a lot of teamwork on this team. You're going to see a lot of them wanting to shock the world together. I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl, but I would go ahead and put a bet that they're over 500 and they're in the playoffs. I'm looking at right now in my head, I'm looking at a 6 seed for this team, and that's pretty darn good.
I'll just say keep calm and carry on. But with that, that's this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell with Bad, our guest on today's show, and Marky D as always.
Go Steelers!